the point god himself, CP3, might be on the move. Him and his representation speaking with the Suns ownership about potential trade, potential extension, a potential release him and then re-sign him, or anything in between as well. So right now, when I look at it, there are rumors he does want to stay. He's close with Devin Booker, wants to get a chance to play with those guys as well too. Missed the playoff run, obviously, against the Nuggets with that groin injury, but kind of surprising to see. I know he's way up there in age, but kind of surprising to see that there's a chance he might want to leave on top of it as well too, depending on what the conversations are like.
Yeah, it's wild. Actually, even Chris Haynes coming out and saying that the Suns absolutely plan on waiving a minimal by the June 20th deadline there. And it's wild. I got to say, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, you look at it and like CP3's kind of bounced around a few teams here since his early days in New Orleans, but it's still weird for me to even consider the fact that CP3 is no longer going to be a Sun. It feels like that was a good fit for him right now, a good fit for the end of his career, kind of that tail end type of situation. Kind of similar to what we saw with Jason Kidd for the most part here. He kind of went down to Phoenix and then winded down his career. Obviously, he ended up on two more teams for the end of his career, but that's just because he didn't know when to say when. And then still thought he was playing basketball for the Bucks as a head coach. But I digress. But no, it does feel like CP3 might need to take a page out of any other point guard's book not named Jason Kidd and learn when is enough, and maybe this is the time to kind of step back from it maybe.
Absolutely. And he has all the intangibles, still a great leader, a great dribbler, still a great passer, still has a good enough shot for the most part. Just staying healthy has been such a plague for him, especially the last 5 years. And when you need him most, that's when it gets worrisome. Remember, Houston up 3-2 against the Warriors. He goes down when he was with Houston. This last year, they needed him against the Nuggets, went down. So I can see from both sides too, and for him at this point too. You want to play for a winner, but at the same time, that Suns team is going to be very interesting next year. And then Frank Vogel coming in as the coach, a more defensive-oriented guy, he's going to need CP3 to sit in that chair, and I don't know if he can do that at almost 40 years of age right now, the same way they need him to. So a lot of dynamic going on. That's something we'll definitely keep an eye out for. But if he does hypothetically get moved, do you think there's a good fit for him, a better fit, or somewhere you'd like him to go?
Man, Detroit would love him, and I say that obviously knowing Detroit's history with famous point guards, especially wearing the number 3. Although he didn't wear number 3 there, I don't believe Chauncey. Chauncey wore. No, he wore 1 in Detroit, but still, I still stand by. I think Detroit would enjoy seeing Chris Paul there. Beyond that, you look around. There's not really any team that needs a point heavy type of guard right now. That's that big. Maybe you have Cole Anthony down in Orlando. Maybe take the pressure off Cole Anthony and allow him to take over. But then you also have Jalen Suggs, who will be fully healthy next year. So do you really take that away from Jalen Suggs? I don't think so. There's not really, to me, a good landing spot without just being like pushing somebody out. There's too many guards in Charlotte for that to be the case. It's too many. Jalen Brunson is a fantastic guard up in New York, so that's not going to happen. Brooklyn obviously has everything taken care of. Maybe Boston. That sounds silly to say considering all of his words about Boston in his career. But there, I mean, ironically back in LA with the Clippers. But there's not really, I think outside of Detroit, there's not a perfect landing spot. I think Detroit might actually be the perfect spot for him, though.
Not to mention, to just piggyback off that, he'll be back with his boy Monty Williams there as well too. So you'll get to rejoin forces there. So that could be a good one as well. Maybe somewhere like the Bucks, he could be like a combo guard with Drew Holiday, kick Middleton down to small 4, but even that's a rough one. Depending on what happens with James Harden, you pair him with Tyrese Maxey. It's where all he has to do is throw lobs to Embiid and tell Embiid to get on the block, not shooting mid-range shots like a 2 guard who's 7'2", 300 pounds. But I think like you mentioned, at this point, it's going to be a little difficult to find the right spot for him. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, which is crazy when we think about Chris Paul as well too, because he's been one of the best players of our lifetime, really. So we'll definitely keep.